Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Always Be Testing podcast. I'm your host, DeGrange, and I'm pumped to have Aaron Orndorff on the call. What's up, Aaron?
I don't know if you say that to all your guests, but my goodness, is that true this morning? Pumped. I am pumped as well, Ty. I'm so glad we made this freaking happen.
Dude, you always bring the energy. You always bring the knowledge bombs. We always have I feel like our conversations are always just like firing on all cylinders, right?
I almost made the joke in the preamble about we should just record every time we hang out. We'll splice it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So this is the real deal though.
Yeah, this is the real deal. We're doing it live. This is like the Super Bowl, the warm-ups, we've gotten through the spring training. It's game time. We're in the mix. We're in the arena.
Dude, lower those expectations. We just piled on way more than we could ever deliver on.
I did.
Let's try.
All right. Mid-season game. It's good stuff.
There we go.
So for those of you who don't know, Aaron, he's a stud and a mensch, and he has done some amazing things in software and e-commerce and D2C com specifically. He is the VP of growth at Fermàt. I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Maybe jump in, Aaron, and give the audience a little bit of a primer on what is Fermàt.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask a primer on Aaron Orndorff. We're going with Fermàt first. I get to pitch out the gate. Yeah. Fermàt is an e-commerce SaaS platform that operates on a subdomain. So think headless, that essentially connects your ad platforms on the acquisition front end and your Shopify or e-commerce platform on the back end. What I like to say is Fermàt lets you create funnels the same way you create ads. So landing pages, embedded PDPs, custom carts, and I just did my little 1, 2, 3. That's the funnel layer in between those ad platforms on the front end and Shopify on the back end. That's the that's the shortest of short versions.
That's impressive. And just to kind of unpack some terminology for folks that are not as Shopify Pro as you, not as D2C Ecom Pro as you and I, when you say headless, can you just give us a little bit of a primer on that?
Yes, rather than existing inside of your Shopify store front, headless means it operates on a subdomain, so it's separate from. So it's not governed by the usual rules, sort of like the gravity and the physics of your Shopify store, which is really just, that's even fancier talk for just the CSS. All of the theme elements that love-hate relationship most folks have with their Shopify theme, I would say, love-hate relationship, especially on the growth marketing side of things, because there is a lot of limitations. It does what it does, and it does it well, right? That's the second you step out of that, that's when you run into issues, and that's a lot of the stuff that Fermàt tries to help with so that you can experiment, play around, really at scale and volume and speed. That's the benefit.
Yeah, adjustable, faster, agile. You can make some more moves, run some more tests.
And a lot less dangerous too, because I've done this as well. Like, I don't know how much backstory we're going to go into, but I literally came up through Shopify.
We're going to go there.
We're going to go there? Okay, so I'll jump ahead. I literally came up through Shopify Plus in particular. Gosh, now about 8-9 years ago, I think I've got to do the math again at some point. I don't know if I've ever told you this. I am such old school D2C e-com. When I started at Shopify Plus, helped write the OG original website for Plus, and literally wrote pieces about what is SaaS and why you can trust the cloud with your e-commerce store versus on-premise, that sort of thing. Like, that's how old I was. We had to define those terms way back in the day. So that was really my sort of like initial claim to e-commerce fame.
You're dropping some major D2C e-com street cred and some major Shopify street cred. So just for those out there who don't know, that means Aaron's been around, knows his stuff, and listen to what he has to say when it comes to this.
That is true, but in the very same breath, I always have to point out I fell ass backwards into that opportunity, and it was the like career trajectory defining opportunity. It shaped everything else. I was not an e-com person. I was a writer, a blogger. I was a content marketer, And I just haphazardly connected with this wonderful human being named Tommy Walker, who had, unbeknownst to me, because I didn't know who he was, just been picked up as Shopify Plus's first marketing hire. It was just this wild confluence of events. And I just kept saying, yes, I can do that. I can write about multi-channel e-commerce. Go to Wikipedia. I can write about the difference between that and omni-channel. Go to Wikipedia and Gartner and all the different. I just
Yep.
kept saying yes and figuring it out. So it was absolute, just wild fortune on my end.
You just crushed some amazing background questions and crushed one of my favorite questions of sliding door moment in your career. And it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's okay to spoil it. We nailed it first. Like, sounds like a pivotal career moment for you.
Very, very much so. Prior to that, I really have lived like a few distinct lives. So I was in military, National Guard, couple of deployments. I went to seminary in one of my previous lives, multi-campus church ministry kind of stuff. And so this whole marketing life kicked off about 11, 12 years ago now. And I think so. There's a nugget. There's a nugget in how this actually all started. This what'd you call it? A slide, like a slope change or step change.
Sliding door moment, kind of a
Dude, sliding door moment. So I kid you not, I was writing like a madman, trying to make myself look like I was somebody when I wasn't anybody. So I wrote for anyone and everyone under the sun, from mainstream publications like eventually got up on the New York Times, but I was like Business Insider, Fast Company, Entrepreneur, to niche publications. And one of the niche marketing publications I wrote for was Conversion XL, now CXL. Great, yeah, down there in Austin. Right. And I used this now defunct, doesn't even exist anymore, SaaS tool. And what it would do, it would scrape the entire article that I'd written and had published, and it would find all the names that were mentioned and coordinate them as best it could with their Twitter handles. And then I would load all of those up into Buffer, and I would do an at so-and-so. I included you in my latest piece for blank. Could you check the links to make sure they're right? Which is also just a little psychological hack of like open loop, ask a question. It wasn't, please share this. And so I would drip those out about an hour apart from each other. And I didn't know who Tommy Walker was. I had no idea his relationship with CXL and Pep Lejeune. I didn't know about Shopify. I sent that out. It was an automated message. I don't know how many of these I sent over and over and over again with nothing to show for it. He saw it. He DM'd me. And the rest is like my history. It's just wild when you show up one foot in front of the next and just keep, like, the more I show up, the luckier I get. The more work I put in, the luckier I get. That is so cool.
I think you nailed it. It's like this bias for action, this energy, this production, this willingness to ship and not necessarily let imposter syndrome or analysis paralysis get in the way. It's like, hey, go for it, put it out there, have some thought behind it, and good things happen if you show up like that.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the crickets. There's going to be a lot of crickets, especially if you're getting started on social or just trying to, or even just doing promotion. I mean, there's always going to be crickets, and it can be really scary to post out into the ether. It can even feel embarrassing. But there's actually nothing to lose in most of these situations. There's actually nothing to lose and a lot to gain. The only thing to lose is that little bit of like, we're self-centered and it worries us, and the fear and the ego.
The ego,
Those are all lies.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been there and we've gone through our waves of it, and it's amazing what happens when you commit and stay consistent and keep producing and take those learnings and try to improve. We're actively seeing it happen in real time.
Dude, consistency. Consistency, I would say, is the most underrated superpower. When someone shows up having done the thing they said they were going to do, and they do it over and over and over again, that sounds so basic. You're shaking your head right now too. That immediately puts you heads, shoulder, it towers you above 95% of everybody else out there that's doing that.
Response rate, bias for action, sounds cliche. It's an Amazon principle, but it's real. And then that consistently of always showing up. I've heard people in the past use like the gap between the say and the do. And if that gap is narrow, you're in.
And it's magical. When I experience someone who does that to me, whether it's a team member, an employee, a boss, it can go up, it can go down. it is trust is built. And it really does make you immediately, it's wild how that consistency makes you stand out because it's so rare.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And this might be like the overarching learning takeaway from this pod, but a great one, and we might come back to it. So zooming out, we got Fermàt, right? They're the middle layer for those listening and curious for D2C e-com. You guys are basically coming in and saying we're going to improve and build funnels between the cart experience on the front end, on the back end of Shopify, and the ad experience that they're seeing in Meta, Google, et cetera, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Love it.
Bridging that gap and doing it in a way that creates consistency, congruence, matching the ad to the landing page experience as close and in some cases one for one as possible.
Yep.
Matching offers, matching audience, those sort of things. We can dig into a little bit, sort of the nuance along those lines.
Yeah.
But it's really just like taking hardcore marketing principles. Like one of the rules that I love is that it's the rule of one job. Have you heard this before?
Tell me about it.
The every element of an ad, an email, a blog post, you fill in the blank of whatever that like sort of the unit marketing asset is, that every element of that thing has one job to do. All right. So this is front of mind for me because I also recently, about 4 months ago, I got picked up by the wonderful humans at the 9 operators and marketing operators, the amazing. So I'm running their newsletter now. That's like my one outside of school on the weekend kind of thing I'm doing for them. And never in my life has this idea of the one job become so important to me, because it's like you pour your heart and soul and blood and sweat into a long form email packed with value. And you know what? It doesn't matter if the entry point, the subject line, doesn't do its one job, which is to get somebody to click inside and open it. You've got that subject line has one job.
Love.
And it's the same with like an ad. The headline of the ad or the hook on the front of the ad is to get somebody to stop. So it's this idea of like, and the congruence then between every single one of those steps so that it naturally leads to the next. That's where power comes in, momentum.
Wow. This is amazing. I think this is a short masterclass for people that they need that reminder from a writer's perspective, from a marketer's perspective. Each stage has one thing, one goal, and one objective. If you miss that mark on that one, not going to make it to the next stage, and certainly not going to make it to that conversion event.
Yeah, exactly. That especially when it comes to ads, hooks, emails, text messages, those sort of pieces right there, where there is a split-second decision of am I down for this or not? Am I going to keep scrolling? Am I trashing it? Because then everything else that we work so hard on is for nothing. And it's so easy to forget that. And it's kind of almost like the distribution first principle of like, instead of just creating something beautiful, which I'm very much prone to, I love creating, beautiful long form content. And I think if there's anything I'm actually known for, it's doing that in the e-com world for sure. So like I am the king of long form that cares way too much about everything that freaking goes into it. So I've had to have, I've just had to beat into my own mind and heart again and again and again that if I can't get eyeballs to this first, it doesn't matter. I've got to get eyeballs to it. And so building with distribution in mind from the jump.
That hits me so hard, and I'm getting better at that myself. We've had almost 60 episodes of the pod. We've had almost 60 our newsletter pieces put out by myself for the RBL Flywheel newsletter on Beehive. Not to plug it too hard. We've done a ton of blog posts before that with the team and through RBL and the business. And I'll tell you what, I feel like a little bit like you. I kind of err on a touch of the nerdy side, and I love to like go super deep. And our pal, Chase and others will read it and go, man, that's a freaking encyclopedic drop right there. But I have to remind myself, like, hey, what's the goal here? How are we bringing people in? Is it getting enough of those eyeballs? Are we thinking about distribution? Which is funny because our entire job when we counsel clients is we distribute like nobody. And then when it comes to me and our content, sometimes it's forgotten. You gotta bring it top of mind.
Dude, it's that old cliche, you know, the cobbler's children have no shoes or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
you work so hard on it for the people that are giving you money, and then when it comes to your own stuff, it's so easy to forget those principles. Which is why I bring up the email thing, because that's just so. And actually, the reason I did it is because the week previous to this week, biggest open rate ever, 70%, and it ticked a little bit past that. I've never had an email pop that hard. And it had the highest click-through rate, just a monster. And then the very next week, I absolutely whiffed it, and we're sitting at like a 45, 48%. And what it comes down to is the content, the meat inside of it was the same. I just fucking missed that subject line hit. It didn't stand out enough. It wasn't. Yeah, so it's front bind for me because that dual experience of winning and then losing.
Would you mind just double clicking on that a little bit for the audience around like the learning of like what do you think that hit so well on the 70% and what do you think sort of missed on that lower percent? If you
So it
don't
was a
mind.
magical, the subject line that hit like 70%, it was for Jones Road Beauty, Cody Plofker's technology stack. It was his agency and technology stack. And right now we're rolling out one of those every week for all the different operators brands. So now, Cody Plofker, Jones Road, very popular, not in the subject line. What the subject line simply said, because this is for the operators newsletter, what the subject line simply said was, I think it was like 30 plus tools revealed. And then so this is probably one of those things that I had the idea like I send it on Mondays. I get it all done over the weekend because it's my little side thing. And I
Yeah.
send it on Monday. And I'll bet you anything it actually came to me Monday, because one of the things we did inside the newsletter is we batched them all by like 5-star rating, 4-star rating, 3-star rating, 2-star rating. So they actually went pretty hard on some of the tools that they're and the agencies that they're not happy with, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Kind of
What I
a
did was I had different star emojis because I love formatting. So inside of the newsletter, I would do black highlighted background, white text, and then I found these star emojis where there's a solid black star and an outlined white star. There's just two different types of emoji. And I loved the way it looked inside of the newsletter with the black background and then the stars with the white outline. It looked really nice. So I took that and I did 5 black stars and 1 white outlined star with black in the middle. And so the subject line was 30 plus tools revealed. Star, 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 empty star. And it fit right inside of like, I go to my Gmail now.
yeah.
And I literally send myself preview after preview after preview. And I just look at it and I'm like, is this
Ooh,
gonna, and what's the preview line? And I think the preview line was something about $100 million tech stack ranked and reviewed. But it was that combo of like, it just, you're going to get 30 tools revealed, and then the star ratings just immediately, I think, clicked with people. Of it was like, oh, like literally clicked. They clicked it. They clicked.
yeah.
That was the thing. So it was a great coming together of those two that just hit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm assuming the alternative, the later version, the next week, just didn't have those elements quite as much, didn't have that appeal, didn't have that visual.
The next one was someone else's tech stack, and it wasn't on them that I whiffed it, but it also had this fabulous 20 Black Friday tips from Connor McDonald from Ridge. It was great. It was great content.
Yeah.
But I led with the 20 plus Black Friday tips. And I think at this point, that's just so oversaturated right now that there was nothing that made that stand out. Now, if you got into it, you'd have been like, oh, dude, this guy's bringing it. Like if I want someone to tell me about, these are the people I want to tell me about how to do things. So, but it was just it did not stand out, I think was the problem. So try again next week.
That's amazing. And just kind of exploring this a little bit further, do you, out of curiosity and maybe even in other roles, do you like to do split testing in kind of real time for some of the sends in email? And have you any interesting learnings there?
Funny thing is, I've never really gotten too many interesting learnings because I think split tests, especially for email, I just haven't been able to get like a good statistical, like, with an A/B test email send, give it a 2 or 3 hour delay, that kind of thing. And then it picks the winner. I just don't think that's enough time for people to actually interact with it or gather enough data around it. But what I have found, and this is immediately applicable to like the work that I do at Fermàt, is you can test at scale in the sense of like, if I have more than 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 email addresses, and I'm going to send them all out, either a sequence, an offer, an invitation to our next big, panel webinar thing that we always blow out of the water. That's where what I really like to do more is simply, I just send 2 different emails, split the list, and let it run and ride. Or in particular, oh my gosh, is seeing the difference in the open rate for a immediately after signing up email, and just split it over time for like, I'm going to run this one for a week, get about 1,000 people to sign up for it. What's the open and click-through rate there? And then do it for another week. What's the open and click-through rate for a different subject line? So those are kind of like just the nuances that I found where it really helps. For some reason, you just have to have a critical mass. Large enough sample size is maybe the thing.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then running it, a week at a time, another week after
Yeah.
that has really helped.
I think there's something obviously important about kind of hitting a similar population, but I also like your call out that you got to give it enough time to bake, because then that's like a classic conversion rate A/B testing fail opportunity that people often don't always get. There's so many of those statistical nerdy terminology that are quite fun when you get into them, and like a lot of times people have a tendency to go, "Oh, called it, I was right," or "Oh, that surprised me, let's declare a winner." And it's like, you got to give it enough time.
You got to give it enough time. And then the thing that I'm working on a giant piece right now on experimentation and CRO, conversion rate optimization for Fermàt. It's going to be like the next big, like, Aaron Orndorff magnum opus. It's going to be like, right, I'm so deep in it right now. And one of the things that really surprised me going through that is how vitally important AA tests are. Where you send the same thing, or it's the same ad.
We did that a lot with our testing. Yep. I love that.
And it's like, no one said it out loud to me until it was probably like 2 years ago when I was working in the SMS side of things. And we would just run these AA tests of pop-ups, run the same pop-up, pretend it's an A/B test, or even with text messages to a large audience, do an AA test of the same message to split your list in half, and you would get wildly different results. And I was like, it almost undid like my whole belief in like objective truth.
Crazy. Yeah. You gotta test for that false positive. You gotta rule that out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing. Aaron, what are you most excited? I mean, there's a lot of excitement in your voice and how you're thinking. You got new, crazy, awesome, insightful content dropping regularly. Stepping back, looking at the Fermàt opportunity and just other exciting things happening in your world, what are you most excited about right now?
The biggest struggle when I got into Fermàt about 4 or 5 months ago now, maybe 6, was there was a lot of buzz around it because our CMO, Rabo Rahil, previously Triple Whale, he's just a one-man roadshow. And
I had him on the pod and called him the Pied Piper of D2C e-com. I think I nailed that one.
Dude can like amass eyeballs and create buzz like nobody I've experienced before, especially in the SaaS side of things. There's a few other folks that maybe I'd put into that category, but the funny thing was, so there's all this sort of like buzz building. And I came in right after Fermàt announced his Series A. So you talk about a wave of buzz, and it was a pretty, like, it is a who's who also as far as like the investors and who led the round. And, so it had all this momentum and buzz. And the joke inside of Fermàt was, yeah, neat. But what do you do? I've been on your homepage like 5 times. I cannot figure out what you do. So my big contribution, I think, coming in was like really taking that seriously, because I experienced it firsthand when I made the announcement I'm going to Fermàt. It was like, oh, that's so dope, Aaron. What do you do? That sort of thing, right? So as strange as it sounds, is one of the things that really, really excites me right now is I think we're finally unlocking and starting to tip into people understanding this idea. What Fermàt lets you do is create funnels the same way you create ads, especially on the paid media acquisition, growth marketer, performance marketer side of things. Same way that you like to chop it up. You like to test offers. You like to test headlines. You like to test CTAs. And you know creative velocity is the key to winning. That is like one of the few truths is you pump enough creative that isn't bad with your best bets into the machine that is Facebook, and it's going to go find the people that this appeals to as long as it's appealing enough. And the key ingredient there is enough creative velocity and volume so the machine can go do what the machine does. And then there's this enormous disconnect between that and what's the arsenal you've got to actually send people to once they click the ad. So this whole simplicity of like, we're going to let you create funnels the same way you create ads, right? That's like the first level of understanding. The second level of understanding is then differentiating what is it about the landing pages that I can create, the custom PDPs that are embedded inside those landing pages so that we're not just pushing the choke point down one step from a beautiful landing page and then, oh, everybody always gets the same PDP, that sort of thing, even on into the cart. Now, there's a lot more nuance, and it's so difficult to figure out how do you say these things in as few words as possible. But that's really exciting to me because when I see people get it, and I'm in a lot of these Slack channels because we do a lot of managed service. Like we index hard on the service side of software as service. And a lot of like the folks that I know have come in and started testing it, and they're starting to see results. And it's watching those light bulbs come on of like the ease, the speed of it, and what's possible that I'm just trying to capture and then figure out how do I put that really into words, because that's my jam. It's how do I put into words that are advertisements, words that are emails, words that are landing pages, words that are long form copy. It's a challenge, but it's really fun because it's something like I believe in because I've got to watch it behind the scenes.
I love that. There's so much, there's so many brands and software tools, I think, that are early stage or even later stage where you look at it and you're like, oh, it seems really cool, but I'm not quite clear on what they do. I'm not really sure where they position in the market. And I think I've seen brands completely turn around when someone like yourself comes in, is able to clearly articulate that position and that value prop and that pain and just keep it simple and be like, oh, I know what they do now. I got an analogy. I got a picture in my mind. I have a sense of what their reason for being is and why they're important.
Mm.
And kudos to you for doing that. I remember talking to you about that and literally talking to Raba, looking at the brand. I was kind of like, yeah, they're doing something in D2C com and software. And Raba's awesome. So must be great. And then like couldn't wrap your head around it.
Yeah.
And then you came in and it was like, not to be overly critical, but you came in, I think you've done an amazing job of really lifting that up for people.
Oh, and there's at least 3 lessons in there. The first is if you are new anywhere, those first 2, 3, 4 weeks that you're at a new organization, whether you're full-time, whether you're coming in as a consultant or a freelancer, fractional, whatever, that brief window where you have the eyes of an outsider is wildly valuable and typically undervalued, not by the organization, but by the individual who's coming in. Because we feel like we should understand. There's something I must be missing. So I'm not going to say out loud, I don't get it. I'm going to just go try to figure this out. When one of the most valuable things you can say is, I don't get it. And I'm going to get it in about 2 weeks. And as soon as I get it, I'm no longer not going to be able to not get it. Right? I'll be in it. And I'm going to lose my eyes of an outsider. So at the very least, to capture that in some sort of written, verbal form where you always pay attention to your first impression of a brand, of a tool, of a description. And even if you don't have the bravery or the courage to say it out loud because you are nervous about like, I'm supposed to get this, but I kind of want to like just push on people who might be listening to say like, if you're in that position, that is so helpful. It's one of the most helpful things you can do.
It's so funny because I remember us talking briefly about this in the past, and the analogy comes up again of like that scene from the movie Big, and Tom Hanks is in the boardroom, and he's like, "I don't get it," and the guy kind of loses his mind. He's like, "What do you don't mean? The numbers are going here, and this is what we're going to do." And Tom Hanks looks around. He's like, I don't get it. And it's like, and everyone's mind just like opens up and it's like, oh yeah, this outsider, this beginner is dropping knowledge and helping the business. And the senior guy going through the traditional charts just starts to lose his mind. It's such a great, I want to cut to that scene right now. And it's,
And it takes like to combine bravery with ignorance is like a wonderful freaking thing. It
yeah,
really is, because that's the scary part. Most of us, because we're not, children in grown-up bodies. We're grown-ups in grown-up bodies, so
yeah.
we don't have the
No one
gall
wants to look
or the
ignorant. No one
ignorance
wants
to
to,
just be like, I'm supposed to know what this is, so I'm just going to ask. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. If you do social clips for this, I hope you splice it in. That'd be dope. That'd be so good.
do it. Let's do it. No, it's such great learnings. And, Aaron, you're kind of on the growing cusp of some big things as a VP of growth. It's not an easy role. It's at any company. Can you kind of share a bit more about like, what drew you to it? Obviously, there's people, there's growth, there's opportunity, and kind of like some of the exciting opportunities and challenges with a role like that. Having been involved in growth for a while, growth something that's near and dear to me, and it's an exciting title, exciting job, but it's also has a lot of challenges. So I'm just trying to maybe drop some of that on the audience that might be helpful.
I'll tell you. So after Shopify Plus, I was there for about 4.5 years, I think it was, maybe coming up on 5. I then got picked up by Common Thread Collective as their VP of marketing, which was my first like big boy title, big boy job kind of thing. So I was there for about 2.5 years, and then went back out into the consulting world for a hot second. Got picked up by a company called Recart, which is SMS marketing, text message marketing. And it was when I was at Recart that it was the first time in my career, by necessity, that I had to be on the front lines of sales. I'd never done this before. And it started as an experiment where it's the same thing we've been talking about. In that case, it wasn't that people didn't get it. It was the opposite. Everybody gets what SMS text message marketing is in e-commerce and why it's important. And the people that are most valuable are the ones that have been doing it for plus 2, 3, 4 years, because they've got a list of 100,000, 250,000, 500,000, maybe 1 million subscribers. It's, as a business, that is wildly, like disproportionately valuable than someone who's getting started. So the idea was you have to be able to not like explain what it is to somebody, but distinguish yourself. What's your competitive advantage? And so at Recart, what that came down to was I had to figure out what are the 5 things we do no one else does. And when I had that first initial, like, I think these are the 5 things, then there's also this, let's go back to the idea of like the subject line or the hook. All right, because one of the positioning statements I really, really like is, how blank, instead do this. So at Recart, it was, how you suspect you're overpaying and don't really trust the results. And it took a lot of work to get there. But when we're talking about text message marketing, I started vetting this with people that I knew in the industry. I'd be like, can I have 15 minutes of your time? I want to pretend to pitch you, and I want you to be mean to me. So we would go into these meetings, and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to pretend now. Scene. And I would open with that line. And 99 out of 100 people are like, yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure I'm overpaying, and I also really don't trust the result that my SMS platform is telling me it's driving. And so there was like this nod that went with it. And then it was distinguishing, what are the 5 characteristics that set this apart from everything else. All right, so it was like the opposite of what doing now with this expansion on how to define a new category. So that was a big part of what I was so excited about. What drew me to Fermàt is actually doing that frontline sales gave me that taste for growth, for real. Like, dude, was negotiating freaking contracts, understanding our profit margin, knowing what we could go to and what we couldn't go to. Like, I'd never done that in my marketing life before. I was on the front lines. Nothing makes you feel more powerful and like a winner than when the ink goes on, Like, dude, you feel like you are contributing to that business, and you are.
Yeah.
And nothing hurts as much as losing, at least for someone like me who isn't built to be a salesman. So growth was like that next thing of, okay, I just swung really hard from marketing into sales and marketing. I think the middle point, like growth, would be, what if I could take these skills that I've developed and continue to hone from the front lines, but find a place where they've got that army of people with thick skin that can take it, called salespeople, who are just, they can take it where Aaron Orndorff can't. But to understand them with empathy and be able to, like, that was like the perfect coming together of like, what's the next frontier for me? I think that's growth. I think that's what that is. And that's the
Yeah.
opportunity that Vermont gave me.
That's awesome. It seems like it's a somewhat of a perfect storm, and to take those more mature, semi more mature business experiences of CTC and Shopify,
Yeah.
certainly Shopify, you could bring that to something that was earlier stage, that's building critical mass, that just got Series A funding, got a good rapport with leadership and team. Um, talk about growth and impact, and seeing that result just viscerally, like right away, is exciting.
Yeah. And I love living in the spreadsheets and the dashboards and clean data, and fighting my way to get to clean data and understanding. Man, like nothing feeds my soul more than someone saying, here's the KPI. This is
Hmm.
it. Define it for me. What is it? Is it marketing qualified leads? And if it's marketing qualified leads, we got to have a really high bar for what is the qualification process, so that it's actually an ICP fit. And there has to be a very clear action they have taken to make them marketing qualified, so that they then will become sales qualified. And in our case, it's like you have booked a call, it's on the calendar. One, and two, you do fit through all of the third party data enrichment information you give us on your way in, so that we're not just booking leads to book leads, right? That's garbage. That's a recipe for a huge disconnect, especially between marketing and sales as the two
Yeah,
organizations.
yeah,
But if marketing can hold itself to this really high level of accountability and say, all right, this is the number to hit, I love going and just attacking that number,
love it,
moving the
love
needle.
it. It resonates with me so hard, and that's a great reminder for everyone out there. You kind of alluded to, excuse me, you kind of alluded to kind of this growth that you're seeing, this performance with Fermàt. The things are starting to click and jive, go well. What is it you think is contributing to that? What are some of those kind of intersections that are working?
This is okay. I don't know which question I hate more. I think I tweeted this a while ago. I don't know which question I hate more, especially from leadership. Why isn't it working? Or what's working? Why is it working?
Mhm.
Now, I say that a bit tongue in cheek because I always prefer the second to the first. Like, the first is actually really uncomfortable when it's happening. Why is nothing working? What's broken is a way more emotionally uncomfortable place to be than trying to figure out what's working. But that really is like sort of like the again, now, like the joke inside of, because we're just like, we're recording this right at the end of October. I'm not sure when it'll drop, but we're on the cusp of just having the best freaking marketing month. And I mean in that way of like, not traffic, not demos booked, but like this like really high level of qualified, that sort of thing is just on the cusp of smashing it at like a record level this month. And so the question is, why? And so I dig into it's so funny because I think what it really just comes down to is, I can't not think in terms of Taylor Holiday, CEO of Common Thread Collective, my boss for about 2.5 years, probably shaped me number one, number two spot of people that have shaped me as a professional in my career. And he's just got this great fill the sponge, squeeze the sponge, fill the sponge, squeeze the sponge. And fill the sponge is, we're going to do a bunch of top to middle activity within the funnel. We're going to build up the email list. We're going to grow our audience. We're going to make sure we have as many addressable people who are paying attention to us as possible. That's fill the sponge. And then squeeze the sponges. All right, MFers. And I sort of do this with like our emails in particular, our email sequences. It's like you hit a point and you're like, okay, the goal for the next 2 weeks is get them to unsubscribe or book a freaking demo if they're a fit. That's it. And it's almost like this aggressive attack. But that's the kind of thing of what I think we're experiencing right now is really there's no better answer than we got a really good marketing team who's been doing a lot of really cool stuff. They've built a ton of awareness on the back of that. We've had a couple few events, online, offline, IRL. We've done some content drops, and all of these things have conspired together to build our email list. We have more people we can reach out to. It's the right people because of what we're doing. Like there was this build, and then it's like this coming together of it's October, Q4 is upon us. If you're going to do something now. So there's like this natural impetus in the market to now's the time to take action. That combined with, all right, so my growth marketer, lifecycle marketer, Kat, who she and I are two peas in a pod and could not be more different humans, but love attacking those numbers. Just like, all right, let's hit it. We are going to go smash this email list until they say stop or okay, I'll show up and talk to you. Like it's that hard of a push. It really is.
Yeah, that's amazing. Aaron, this has been amazing. Coming down the home stretch, going to hit some fun personal questions and career questions, kicking it off. So, what is there a mentor or coach or a career influence that you want to acknowledge that's just been a great counsel for you?
I already mentioned the two. I can't help not mention Taylor Holiday looms enormously large in my life. I still devour everything he and Common Thread Collective puts out, and the wonderful human Tommy Walker. And Tommy's very, very similar to Rabba. Tommy, we used to joke around about if we were the Beatles, he was John Lennon. He was out there talking about I am the walrus. And I was like, yeah, no. I'm the Paul McCartney. What's the hook? We need a radio single to move units. So those three, those two, and then Robert right now, actually, too. It's just that perfect sort of coming together.
Love the Beatles analogy. It's good stuff. Is there a SaaS tool that you've kind of just kind of switched on, not for mop, but something that you utilize that you just want to recommend to the audience that you perhaps rave about?
I mean, the one tool I cannot live without is Superhuman. It really is the email platform. It is they keep upgrading their integrations with HubSpot and Salesforce. It's amazing. It's one of those like I could not live without it. If there was a second one, I'm actually quasi kind of falling in love with Clay. They used to be like a personal CRM, and now they're like integrate with everyone under the sun for data enrichment. And you can do some dope stuff with queries inside of Clay. You can really do some damage. So that's a hot one right now that I'm falling in love with.
That's amazing. I love that. I'll be honest, Superhuman, I'm a little bit falling out of love, but I might need a little primer with you to be like, okay, hold up here. Let's get back in. Let's nerd out. Let's get some nice templates and systems in place because I think it is quite powerful. I think some of the others, just basic stuff is caught up, but I might need some education to get lured back in.
I couldn't live without it. It's one of the few.
I love it. I love it. And on the consumer side, what's something you bought recently that you just can't live without or kind of raving about it?
I'm a mad fan of Plum Deluxe tea. They're out of Portland, Oregon, so hometown hero kind of thing. They came into my life at the perfect time, and I think it was I connected with Andy, who's the founder. He operates it on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the series of events that happened, but it was one of those my lovely wife was talking about. I kind of want to get into loose leaf, but I'm not sure how. And it was, here comes Andy. And here comes Plum Deluxe. And so I got her this loose leaf tea, and it had like a little book with it, and then the thing that you do, and I got her a subscription to it, and it made me a hero when I bought that for her. So then
That's
I
awesome.
went to Andy, and I was like, my guy, who are you? How do we connect? How do we become? Yeah. And so I just cannot preach the good news of Plum Deluxe. It's amazing, and they've got a fabulous Facebook group. Andy's a gem of a human being.
That's awesome.
Their starter kits are amazing.
Very cool. It's so funny. I think it was last holiday. I found a stellar tea, like really high quality. Um, I want to say it was maybe through Goop, but they have their own brand presence. Like Goop just was curated them, and they were phenomenal. Like the flavors were off the charts. and it got me involved into it. And similarly, like when I gifted it to my wife, she was just like, "Wait, thank you. This is insane." And like still having it now, and periodically, it's great. I can't recall the brand, but a kind of similar experience. Um, what's something that the folks in the audience might not know about you that you want to share?
Mm.
Fun fact, surprise, hobby, silly quirk.
I am confident to the point of defiance when it comes to what I think a marketing strategy ought to be and the execution of that strategy, and what I then also think we ought not to invest in. Okay. So I will take really hard stances on no, we don't need to do that because that's not the bread and butter. We haven't got the trains to run on time yet. Why are we painting them with race stripes or some nonsense, right? Um, I am that. And at the very same time, I am wildly insecure, never expect anything to work, am genuinely surprised when it does. Like this month, we're like winning this month. And I almost don't want to say it out loud because I'm like, oh, it's not going to last. It's all going to fall apart. Or it's like something's going to show up that. So like it's this weird tension that I live in between. And maybe that's just encouraging for people that they might not know about me because I have sort of like a bombastic presence on social and I'm really excitable, that sort of thing. But no. An inch below the surface, a centimeter below the surface, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. Everyone's going to find out that I'm terrible at this. That sort of thing.
It's like I'm almost hearing you as like a passionate, constantly progressing pessimist. You're like, and I think that that's okay and that's healthy. I think like human nature, we protect ourselves. My CEO and I have a little bit of that dynamic where sometimes I'm pessimistic. He more often is, and I'm kind of hard charging the vision and the positivity. It's a balance, and it's very interesting.
And as long as that defiance doesn't turn into bullheadedness, because the other piece of it is that insecurity or the not expecting it to work or that sort of thing really does make me open to correction. So like the analytics of, maybe this is like a great one to end with is, so I've relaunched Fermàt's homepage with like, my magnum opus of create funnels the same way you create ads. We have these visuals that are just popping on desktop. We create custom mobile versions of them as well. But I only have enough time to put together the first 4, and there's actually spots for 8 logos. So we create these 4 funnels that you can click on the homepage, and it cycles you through. Like it goes True Classic. I think Armor was one of them. Like big brands, right? They're just like, these are beautiful. No. It wasn't Armor because Armor. No, the one I ended with was Armor was in the middle of the page, and I was like, no one's gonna click through the first 4 buttons and hit the 5th one, and then realize they can't click it. And I kid you not, I cannot remember how this came up. I think it was literally our CEO comes into the website channel inside of Slack one day and he's like, not all the buttons for the funnels on the homepage work. And I was about to fire back, yeah, no one's clicking all the way through the first 4 to get to the 5th. Like who does that? So I pull up our heat map and guess where there is this giant red people are rage clicking the middle one. And I was like, nope, I was wrong. Time to go make the rest of them right now.
That's amazing. That's
And if I'm
amazing.
proven wrong, it's like, all right, I got to
Yeah.
change what I'm doing. I was wrong.
And I think that's magic. It's like this sounds so cliche, but the whole notion of like strong opinions loosely held, willing to let go of those beliefs once they're debunked and move on. That's come up a lot on this pod with smart, really great, people like yourself. So what a great thing to wrap with. What a great thing to end on. So many good learnings, Aaron. Thank you so much for joining and dropping your knowledge today.
Absolute delight, Ty. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. And for folks that want to learn more and connect with you, Aaron, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm Aaron Orndorff on the Twitter's X. Same name on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find. Low hanging fruit. Like a few things that I put out. Come into my DMs and I'll smile. Yeah, I'm easy to put a smile on my face. Twitter, LinkedIn engagement is my love language. So if you want to butter me up and then swoop in, go for it. Fermatcommerce.com. Put that in the show notes or whatever. Go check out what we're up to, and let me know if there's anything on the site that you really wish you could click, but you can't.
Love it. That's really funny. Way to finish strong, Aaron. Always a pleasure. We did it, and have an awesome rest of your day.
Thanks, sir.